Russia hoax is real.
And there's no repercussions.
Yes.
There's no one had to apologize. Hillary Clinton never came out and apologized for that, and people still listen to her. The whole thing's crazy. And it's all coming from the left, which growing up...
It's all coming from the left. All fake stories, guys, is coming from the left. And I have two problems with this statement. One is not the left, okay? Whatever's going on MSNBC and NBC and CBS and CNN is not the left, okay? It's liberal. Liberal is not left because liberal is not left. Liberal, as it's been defined now in the United States, is pro-war, pro-genocide, pro-environmental destruction. If you look at actions, not words. Fine with the United States being the largest prison state in the world. Fine largely with systemic racism. Yeah, sure, they'll do a little DI thing here or there, but systemic racism has not really changed in this country. And like I said, largest prison state in the world. And these are just a few of the things that liberals support. One of the largest police states in the world. Liberals are fine with it, or they might be a little meh here or there, but it's meaningless. And so liberal is not left, and yet they talk about it like it's left, and that actually helps muddy the waters, helps make it so that people don't understand what's going on in this country, which is part of the goal of the ruling elite. Again, Elon Musk is in that ruling elite, so he says it's only coming from the left. Now, let's ignore. Now that we're past the idea that liberal is left, let's move past that. The fake news is only coming from the liberal news. Fox News doesn't have any fake news. Literally, Elon Musk just got done telling you that Democrats are flying millions of illegals into the country to vote. Fake news. And these two billionaires want you to think that fake news only comes from liberals, or from what they're calling the left. Fox News is still filled with fake news. News Nation or New York Post or whatever these other right-wing, filled with fake news. Wall Street Journal, which is absolutely a right-wing paper, filled with fake news. Filled with fake news about Israel and their ongoing genocide, but they don't call it a genocide, right? Filled with fake news. So the idea that this is coming from just one side is idiotic, and it's propaganda, and it goes to serve the ruling elite, the status quo, the system, because that's what these two do. They're both billionaires.
As a person who was in the left my whole life, it doesn't make any fucking sense.
Same. I mean, I was on the left until like 3 years ago.
No, you weren't. No, you weren't. You were somewhat of a liberal until 3 years ago. And mainly, as we now know, he was just saying liberal ideas that made catnip for liberals because he knew that was good for selling cars, because that was his main business until a few years ago. Sure, he had the SpaceX thing, but that was largely a secondary mission of his. And so he knew that selling electric cars, good to sound liberal, so I'll sound liberal. But that's not left. That's not being left-wing. This is an absolute capitalist who is absolutely fine with the exploitation of the working class every single day. And yet, here he is saying, I was left-wing until 3 years ago. No, you were not. No, you were not, my friend. Also, if you need a reminder, Elon Musk has been tied to the CIA since his earliest days, back with PayPal. InQtel is the CIA's venture capital fund, and they helped get Elon Musk and PayPal going. Most of the money he's made has come from government contracts and companies that have gotten rich from government contracts, and companies that then their stock has gone up thanks to government contracts, which when I say government contracts, I don't mean government social working. I mean government missiles, defense, Starlink used to perpetrate the proxy war in Ukraine, etc. His wealth would be a tiny fraction of what it is. He may still be a billionaire, but a tiny fraction of what it is without U.S. military contracts, government contracts, and the CIA's venture capital fund InQtel.
Like, I mean,
it's not the left anymore.
It's not the left anymore. No. It's just like, I think we obviously want. I mean, I believe like we want freedom. Like we want to maximize personal liberty. I think we want to be kind to people. We want to have empathy, but it's very important to have personal freedom.
So this is another, classic right-wing talking point, although it's been adopted by plenty of liberals. We just want personal freedom. Well, no, you don't. You want certain kinds of freedom. You want largely freedom to walk around and say things, but this is completely ignoring, by definition, ignoring economic force, which is perhaps the most powerful force in our world, in capitalist America. It ignores the force over people to behave certain ways because of economics, because of survival, because of money. And they need that in order, because the right wing loves to say, oh, we want freedom. We stand for freedom. We're all about freedom. And it's not just the right wing, the entire, both political parties. We're all about freedom, right? Freedom, freedom, freedom. But they have to define that freedom very narrowly and very carefully, or else you'd start to talk about freedom from like wage slavery, or freedom for medical debt, or freedom from student loan debt, or freedom to live your life how you want, or freedom to be not in a prison state that has more prisoners than any country in the world. Or there's so many ways that we don't have freedom, and they need to define it in this little window to say, that's what I want. I want that little window of freedom where the richest man in the world, literally he is, the richest man in the world, can have the freedom to oppress anyone he wants, as long as it's mostly through finances. And he largely bought, Trump probably would have won anyway, but Elon Musk did all he could to buy this election. He spent over $100 million. I think he spent more than any other individual. So he wants to buy our democracy.
And a merit-based society. And the left wants to oppress your freedoms, especially freedom of speech, and
a merit-based society. This is another one that's hilarious. They want a merit-based, as people who say that, want a merit-based society as long as we don't address many of the ways that we don't have a merit-based society, such as systemic racism. You guys have heard before if you watch my stuff a lot, but it's a good example. You're 50% less likely to get the first job interview if you have a black-sounding name. Even if it doesn't ask your race on the form, you're 50% less likely just to get that first interview. Not the job, just the first interview if you have a black-sounding name. That's the society in which we live. Does that sound merit-based? Now imagine you're a black guy who actually shows up to the interview. What do you think the odds are then? Now imagine you're a black guy in that workplace. What do you think the odds are you have an easier time getting that next promotion? And then if you are to get to the tippity top of the ruling elite, if you are a black person who gets up there, the Ben Carsons and the Herman Cains of the world and the Lloyd Austin of the running the Pentagon, well, you got there because you proved to the white male, mostly white male class that rules things, that you will do exactly the same as they do, and that you will not stand up in any way against the oppression. If you prove that to them every day for 40 years, then as a black person, you can sometimes, and it's the exception that proves the rule, you can sometimes get up to those heights. But you had to prove to them that you do everything exactly the same as them. You'd oppress the masses, you'd oppress the people, you wouldn't talk about systemic racism, you wouldn't talk about the empire, you wouldn't talk about the genocide, you wouldn't talk about the exploitation of the poor around the world. Okay, you've proved yourself. Now you can maybe get up to that level.
And they want to have a non-merit-based society, with race-based and sex-based preferences. And it's like, well, wait a second. No, we just want people to succeed based on their skills and their hard work.
And if they don't want people to express themselves about particular issues, then they're not doing the will of the people. And if they're trying to suppress people's ability to communicate, they're only doing that because they want to do things that people don't want them to do.
Yes.
And they want to silence opposition. That's all it is. And the
100%.
fact that people can't see that and they want to call Trump a fascist, the whole thing is...
Trump is a fascist in the same way our system is fascism. In all of the ways I just talked about the exploitation of the working class, in all of the ways that I mentioned before, being the world's largest prison state, we in many ways have a fascist society. And these two are horrified that Trump would be called a fascist, but in fact, both sides stand for the same fascist system. And Trump is not that different. Trump is what is vomited up from a waning empire, but so is Biden. In his addled brain. I mean, he forced through more racist laws and oppressive laws than perhaps any member of Congress in the past recent decades. He's put more black people and poor people in prison than maybe any other government official, considering he forced through the crime bill in the 90s. These two are you flabbergasted that Trump is called a fascist. Well, they both are. Biden, Trump, Harris, they stand for the same thing. And it is funny to watch these two, like I said, two billionaires, or one close and one with $400 billion, claim to be like men of the people, right? We're standing up for the little guy and the people and the freedoms and the things and the buzzwords. And meanwhile, this is two billionaires giving an absolute fluff job to the billionaire president of the United States, who's already been president once. Now he's headed into the second time. He's a multi-billionaire. And they just give him an absolute fluff job. And it's like, they act like they're fighting against something. No, you are the status quo. You are the system, the media system, the oligarchy system, the tech system, you are it. You're not fighting against it. It's kind of like how Fox News loves to say the media. The media is saying negative things about the mainstream media. The mainstream media is trying to promote Kamala Harris. And I'm like, Fox News, what are you? What in the hell are you? But the mainstream media. They are the number one most viewed news channel. So these two are kind of doing the same. They're like, we men of the people. Oh my God.